Who Dat Nation, welcome in. 4 wins in a row. First time we've done that in 5 years, going back quite a while. You got Tyler Shough throwing 300 plus yards, over 80% completion, 2 tutties, no interceptions. What year is it? We've got a running back average of 6.7 yards per carry, almost 100 yards. What year is it? We got the defense, who admittedly started off slow, but on 4 in a row, Rev's going to spend a lot of this Who Dat Confessional giving spicy glory. We got Shough, 1.5. But how about that tutty? How about the tutty? What year is it? Who Dat Nation? Oh, how about my man Cameron Jordan securing the bag? For those that don't know, with him getting a sack today, Cameron Jordan secured $600,000. What year is it as the New Orleans Saints win 4 in a row? Who Dat to you? Welcome in, everybody. Welcome. Look, a lot of people have been asking me, what did I need to see from Tyler Shough before I'm finally like, okay, we're looking at the future bandwagon. Games like this, right? What I mean, adversity, overcoming, another fourth quarter comeback. By the way, for those who don't remember, we talked about Tyler Shough was the first quarterback in 3 years to have a fourth quarter comeback as the starter. He's now done it twice, right? Previous starting quarterback wasn't pulling off game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks. Now you got Tyler Shough, got him 2 of them. This is actually his 3rd game-winning drive, his 2nd fourth quarter comeback, and he's only played 8 starts. Like, now, there is something to be said for not wanting to have to always be coming from behind, but to have somebody who can consistently show you that he can do it. Now, again, wins are not all a quarterback stat, but you have to have a man who puts you in a position to win the football game. You got that today with Tyler Shough. We're going to talk about all the goodies, but man, y'all got to be excited. I know New Orleans is not going to the playoffs, and that's okay, because right now, this team looking pretty nice, right? This team, more importantly, looking to the future, looking pretty nice. Now, again, there's definitely some things that still have got to change, still have got to get better. Absolutely. No denying it. But we're starting to see a lot of what you've been looking for. Who Dat to you? Welcome in. Good to see you. Not a human being, James Griffon, Brian W2, welcome in. T-Mama's in the house, Rainy Platypus, Practicus OG Mike, good to see you. Welcome on in. 9th Ward, Bobby the Space Ghost. Who Dat to everybody coming in. Sunblood, Jerry, everybody. So good to see you all. How did all this go down? If you missed the game, it looks with them rare times where I actually recommend you go and check it out. Didn't start off how you wanted in the first half. In fact, you had in Tyler Shough's first start, or first drive rather, the offensive line definitely showing that they weren't ready for Simmons. Now, to Simmons' credit, he is absolutely, and yeah, I even said this on the broadcast, so it's not like I'm coming out with a mind-revelating thought here, but he is probably one of the best defensive players in the league. And if he was on a team that had a winning record, he probably would be getting a lot of hype. He's certainly not getting that hype right now in terms of national recognition, but please be aware he is a very, very talented player. And you saw that happen where first drive, he gets right in the face, splits the A gap. Obviously, Cesar Ruiz not even in. So you got Cesar Ruiz is back up. That tells you what's going on the right side of the offensive line right now, and forces a fumble. So what ends up happening as you get through the first quarter ends, Saints down 6-0, but they carry a drive into that third quarter where they score. So Saints go down 13-0. So a 2-score deficit. And this is typically where we see the New Orleans Saints in history, recent history that is, just collapse. Like, we can't come from behind. The defense collapses. We can't do anything about it. Instead, you have answers. Because look, first 3 quarters of this game, your New Orleans Saints total offense was 200 yards. 219 if I remember correctly. Fourth quarter, about 300. So seeing them overcome big deals, big things is pretty key. And I think it is great that it was the defense that provided that momentum and that spark to make that happen. You'll notice that the New Orleans Saints did kick a field goal. They didn't miss a field goal. There were some extreme wind conditions in Tennessee today. So not going to try to hate on Charlie like we have on a certain small man who will not be named only because he trash talked New Orleans after he left. But you had Cameron Ward getting sacked by Chase Young, who strips the ball and takes it to the house. And you just saw literally the momentum shift. It was like it was a visual thing that you could see on the field. The momentum just shifted. And as you see more and more of this team showing grit and resiliency, the more you are able to believe in them and really have a good idea of where you think they could be next year. And I think it's the combined energy, charisma, and talent that you're starting to see from some of these guys. I mean, Chase Young getting a sack and a half. I'll be very curious to see how they deem that final play of the game. Honestly, I feel like they should have credited Cameron Jordan with a sack fumble on that one. We'll see if they go back and look at that and give him credit. But when you look at all the things that happened today with the Saints, it's still that grit and determination that pulls out for me. And Chase Young's been a great example of that. With him getting a sack and a half today, that brings brings Chase Young up to 8.5 on the season. Remember, he's played 9 games. Oh, I'm sorry, he's played 11 games now. 9.5 sacks, 8.5. God, my math is terrible today. I've been too excited about 4 in a row. 8.5 sacks in 11 games, ladies and gentlemen. 8.5 sacks. Now, will he reach 10 sacks? I can't say that. Cameron Jordan today, again, very curious to see if they go back and adjust the numbers. He's going to finish the day currently 9.5 sacks on the season. Should he get another half sack, back to double digits at 36 years old. He's literally 10 years older than Chase Young, yet help pulling it out. Also want to shout out Jonah Williams from the interior coming through with a big sack. Shout out to him. That's his 3rd on the year. And then, of course, we got Demario Davis, who helped with one of those Chase Young sacks, ended up splitting him, getting him a half, which brings Demario Davis to, believe it or not, technically his first sack of the season. But again, this goes back to the big momentum shift you saw, and you did still have Cameron Wharton have a 7-yard touchdown pass that next drive. In fact, the defense allowed an 80-yard drive, and you might go, Rev, how can you really speak on momentum shifting when Tennessee marched down the field the very next drive? And the reason for me that it was a big momentum shift is because what did it do to the offensive side of the ball? Right? And I actually want to get to Raheem's question here real quick. He says, great win. Shough deserves to be the starter next year, but do you think the slow starts are due to poor offensive coaching or lack of talent? I think there's a mixture of both. I think the big thing this team is certainly lacking in is talent. Offensive line is key. And we talked about, the slow start. A big one was the fact that New Orleans does not have the talent, especially on the offensive line in the interior right now, to stop another team having one superstar guy who can just make the change and be the guy that, how do you stop him? Who can win that one-on-one against Simmons? Or do you have to start devoting slides and extra protection to fill in his gaps? And I think that's part of it. I think there's absolutely a talent deficiency on this team, right? I do have to say, look, as much as we've critiqued the coaching throughout the year, and I think a lot of the critiques have been justified, one thing about this that I have said all season long is that Kellen Moore is doing one thing. Kellen Moore is building his style. And what he's saying is, look, you either fit my style or you're out. Right? That's part of why Spencer Rattler is no longer the starter. That's also why you see a lot of moves that have been made in terms of changing things around, because Kellen Moore says you either fit my system or we find somebody who will. Right? And then you have young guys who are stepping up. What else can you say about Tyler Shough besides the fact that he is stepping up? Right? I know that there are still people who are not fully convinced in Shough, and I'm not saying that he's the franchise guy, because when you say franchise, you're talking, guaranteed 5 to 10 years. I definitely think that he has earned the right to be the starter next year. I definitely think he's the best rookie quarterback I've ever seen play for the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, I went ahead and said it. Now, granted, that's a low bar. The New Orleans Saints do not exactly have a history of rookie quarterbacks coming in and showing out. Ever. It's just not something this franchise has. So yeah, low bar. But still, what he has come in and done, and the leadership he provides, and the belief the team has, and I think it's going back to the offense. We're still working through the second quarter here, but you see Tyler Shough making it happen. Another scissors concept. We've seen Kellen Moore showing a lot of that. Scissors concept play, very similar to what you saw Olave get another touchdown a couple weeks ago with. Pulls the Saints to 20-17 after the halftime. So you go into half, down 20-10. But again, it's that momentum shift you saw. The defense really sparked the offense. They come out, you get a 20-17. And then, look, field goal exchanges. And then finally, the fourth quarter, that's where you see this offense take off. And a big reason for it is Tyler Shough, right? One thing that I want to highlight, and I highlighted it a lot when Spencer Rattler was quarterback. Many of you going, why are you bringing up Rattler? Because I think it's important to compare what it looks like. When you actually can give fans and anybody an actual element to say, okay, go compare this to this. This is part of what was missing. Look at Tyler Shough's yards per attempt, 12.3. This is a big element that was missing. And this is something that in theory should be worse, right? You got rid of Rashid Shaheed. You got rid of Brandon Cooks. All those guys that we talked about, oh man, we got a team of 4-3 speedsters. In theory, it should be worse. But that's not the case. In fact, the deep ball accuracy that you see from Tyler Shough is leading all rookie quarterbacks and is one of the best in the league currently, according to various analytic stats. You look at guys like Chris Olave, 8 receptions, $119. He should have had another one of those deep passes, just didn't quite haul it in. But how can you fault the guy who has a tutty and averaged 15 yards a reception? That's the Chris Olave you should be seeing. And he's doing that without a number one on the outside of him, right? There's not a true split end to protect Chris Olave and Tyler Shough, but yet they're still making it happen. Juwan Johnson's come out and just really dominated the interior of the zone right here and attacking the whole of the defense in the middle of the field. 4 for 4 on 95, right? 24 average. Again, it's Tyler Shough being able to connect on things and do things in a way that we just haven't had in a couple years. And that speaks to also, again, and I see the chat talking about ball placement. What makes the 12.3 yards per attempt and what makes Chris Olave go for 15 yards per attempt? What happens? That's ball placement. That's the difference between an accurate ball and a well-placed ball. An accurate ball might be a completion, but maybe there's no yards after catch. Maybe there's no opportunity to complete a rub route and get that extra bit, but you still get the pass. Great ball placement leads to stuff like this. And to be clear, look, there's still a couple of missed ops here. There were missed opportunities in a game where the offense finally scores enough points to win the game, even though the defense gave up 26. And they stood up and they stood tall. It was so fun to see, and all of this is happening when it shouldn't be happening. I mean, you've basically lost your entire starting offensive line, right? You've lost your starting running back. You've lost starting wide receivers. This entire offensive team is basically different than week one, right? Your quarterback is different. Your running back is different. Your tight end is different. Everybody, for the most part, your offensive line is completely different. You got 3 out of 5 that are different, but you've also had Fuaga injured, so he's rotated. So you could even claim 4 out of 5 of your offensive line are different. 3 of your wide receivers are different. Even the wide receiver you traded for, Vele, is out. You don't even have him. You've got guys that they were literally signing off the street. It reminds me so much of a few years ago, and we are not about to compare Tyler Shough to Drew Brees, but we can say that the offense as a whole is contributing with guys that are not highlight name guys, right? The fact that Mataveo signed off the practice squad comes in and contributes. The fact that Kevin Austin over here with 4 receptions, 52 yards, and a tutty is looking like he might be a legitimate side piece. Don't buy into it. Don't get crazy. It's just how it's happening. How are these wins happening? And then I know there'll be the detractors who say, well, Rev, you just beat a 3-win Tennessee Titans team. Yeah, right? What's the key to a good NFL team? You beat the team you're supposed to win. You find a way to win, right? Tyler Shough and the New Orleans Saints did that today. Chase Young and the defense did that today. Chase Young and his defense did not start off strong, right? Cameron Ward is a very dangerous quarterback. I know Cameron Ward is not the greatest quarterback in the league, but he still threw for 250 on you, 2 tutties, and he's very athletic, and we've seen the New Orleans Saints struggle with that, right? Going back to the scoring list, though, you shut him down in the fourth quarter, and look right here. These are the keys. Kevin Austin, 10-yard tutty. Estime, 32-yard run, which should be pointed out on that 32-yard touchdown run that you also had the New Orleans Saints pretty effective passing game throughout that entire drive as well. So that went 4 plays, but you still had good passes. You had the previous drive go 4 plays, went 80 yards. This team is clicking. And I get it. It's too late for it to matter in terms of this season. But man, oh man, has it got to be exciting as a fan to look forward to watching football, man. Like the fact that we got to see Bayou Bun's song lyrics in the freaking stands on an away game. Yeah, we getting shucked tonight. Look. Shout out to Bayou Bun. Shout out to the fact that the New Orleans Saints fans have something to be excited for. That Who Dat Nation has a reason to want to follow this team and to want to see what's going to look like next year. That's a reason to be excited. Aaron Alvarez is Shough literally making his whole team better. And I got to agree. Look, that is the key to being a great player in the NFL and being a good player in the NFL. Do you elevate those around you? I think unarguably you're seeing Tyler Shough elevate those around him, right? This is his 8th start. This brings him up to 9 TD passes, right? Didn't throw an interception today, which is nice. It actually drops his interception percentage lower than Spencer Rattler's was this year. And again, we just want to compare apples to apples, right? 2 starting quarterbacks on the same team with the same coaching staff. And that way you can evaluate them and you can use them as a measuring stick to do scouting reports against each other, right? So you got 9 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions so far. His completion percentage goes up to about 68%. Right? Really, really good. His quarterback rating today was 142. His quarterback rating for the year is It's getting to the 90-ish range. 90 plus is where good quarterbacks are at. And this is all while him having a worse offensive line, undeniably, right? Nobody can deny that the New Orleans Saints offensive line is worse now than it was at the beginning of the year. And he has now taken, I think, 28 sacks in 9 games, right? So averaging 3 sacks a game, his pressure rate was sack rates about 9%, 8%, 9%, depending on, what week we're looking at. That's really high. Pressure rate's high, but you're still making plays happen. Again, the game-winning drives was one of the big ones. And a lot of people ask, Rev, what does it take for you to believe in Tyler Shough? And we had a big conversation in our Discord. For those who aren't a member, feel free to join. And one of those combos was like, look, I said it. I'm okay if you still draft Mendoza. Why? Because you still need to see a lot from Shough. What you've seen the past couple of weeks is some of those missing elements that I needed to personally see, which is the game-winning drives, the fourth quarter comebacks, leading your team and having the grit and determination to do that. And the reason it's so big for me is I go back to what I told y'all a few weeks ago on this show. A New Orleans Saints quarterback has not done that in years. And it's not an exaggeration. I know that sounds crazy, but it just doesn't happen. Tyler Shough now has 2 fourth quarter comebacks. Nobody did that before him. Derek Carr didn't do it last year. Now, Derek Carr had 1 game-winning drive, but had no fourth quarter comebacks. Mr. Rattler didn't do it. Jake Hayner didn't do it. Taysom Hill didn't do it. You actually have to go back. The last fourth quarter comeback, I believe, was Jameis Winston in 22. I believe it was either Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton all the way back in 2022. And he's had 2 of them, which, by the way, was the entire number that you've had over the past 3 years. Between 2022 and 2024, the New Orleans Saints collective quarterback group and team had 2 fourth quarter comebacks. 2. From veterans who last a year or 2. That's all you had. Now you've got a rookie quarterback who's led you on 2 of them in his 9 starts. 2 of them in 9 starts. There's a reason to be excited, Saints fans. Dupree's Good to See says, what is the main reason Chris Olave had a healthy season? Are the quarterbacks more protecting him better, or is it just luck? I don't think it's luck at all. I think the number one thing is they've shifted to playing a style that is better for him. As in, it's more focused on yards after catch and getting Olave in space and using him in a pretty wide variety of ways. I mean, you see him in the short game, you see him in these little swing passes, you see him in scissors concepts, using him in the red zone. Usually, receivers like Chris Olave are not red zone guys, right? But Chris Olave, after today, now has 9 tutties. I'm really rooting for him to manage to pull in 1 more, have a 10 touchdown season as a receiver. I really am pulling for him to manage that. And to do that at a guy his size is very rare. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I was not among the crowd. It was like, look, Chris Olave's cooked. He's done. He's clearly not playing at the level you want him to. But then you get to what's happening right now. So Chris Olave now has 1,150 receiving yards. I think it's about 1,160, 9 touchdowns. And his average has gone up in terms of his yards per reception average has gone up significantly in the past 10 weeks. You look like a guy that you want to keep on this roster and build with. Now, is he somebody that you build around? I'm definitely not willing to jump on we're going to build around Chris Olave bandwagon. And Rainey, live long and prosper as well, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. But what I will say is you absolutely see that he can fit with what this team is doing right now with Tyler Shough, with Kellen Moore, even with all the issues that you're having. Again, it's these little changes that have made this so impressive to watch because we know this team talent-wise is literally pulling from a smaller bag. They just are, right? You lost most of your offensive line. You traded away one of your best wide receivers. I still believe Rashid Shaheed is one of the better, flanker wide receivers in the league, as well as punt returner / kick returner. Is he elite? Arguably not, but still very good. I think you got a worse receiving room when you got rid of him. The question is, did that help you moving forward? And clearly it has helped moving forward. What this team is doing has certainly helped, and putting in the opportunity for other guys and the entire coaching staff to have success. Also, in the defense, I really want to throw out a couple more props. Number one, I had a couple people question me. You know who you are. When I put on my list months ago, I put on my list, Kool-Aid McKinstry was a guy that I would not trade on this team. I would keep him. Certainly showed up, had a good day today. Alontae Taylor, I gave up a tutty, but Alontae Taylor had a good game today. Right? Again, you're seeing grit and determination. Why does that matter? This team went down by 2 scores early. How many times in the past 3 years have we seen them roll over? They didn't do that. And it's the young guys who stood up and stood out. I'm not saying that what Cameron Jordan is doing is not incredibly impressive at 36. I'm 36 years old and I'm struggling to lose 5 pounds because I'm fat. And I barely am like, man, do I want to go on a walk today and be semi-active? Cameron Jordan out here getting 9.5 sacks at 36 years old in the NFL. Like, what am I doing with my life? Right? But you have Kool-Aid had a really solid game today. I really enjoyed a lot of his plays. Hell, if he'd still been in college, he would have had an interception at the end of that game. I've enjoyed his coverages. Now, again, is he playing elite? No, I still think Kool-Aid's probably a solid number 2. But you build around that. Alontae Taylor, again, I definitely think is better from the slot. But you see him crashing down, being effective there. Still a few different things to watch out. Obviously, this team needs more talent. But man, oh man, they look good today. Also, did we mention the fact that your rookie quarterback has 2 straight games throwing over 300 yards? Like, dang. And that doesn't that mean something to you? Does that not make you feel like, ooh, are we maybe getting back to the old days? We're not there yet, but are we thinking about it? We considering getting back to the old days? S9-Ep, by the way, great job. I mean, obviously, he's not had a ton of snaps, right? S9-Ep is young, though. He's only 22 years old. This is like just such a gift that Sean Payton just lets this guy go from Denver. We pick him up, and you don't really know who's going to be the running back of this team because you've had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, Alvin Kamara obviously being injured. You had a lot of hope for the man, the myth, the legend, and it feels like a legend at this point because you never really get to see him play. But Kendre Miller, right? And not to say that Kendre Miller's not talented, but yeah, then you lost Devin Neal. So you got S9-Ep coming in, who is technically the youngest running back in the room. You have Devin Neal, who's also 22. Devin Neal's birthday is in August. S9-Ep's birthday is in September. So right at the same time. And there's literally a month difference. You got a young guy who maybe we can build on. Again, there's a lot of this is going to depend on how next game looks, how they look finishing the year, right? For those who are very angry, salty, sitting in your unhappiness, go ahead and give you an update. Your New Orleans Saints, thanks to the win today, we're picking 8th. Just for those curious, as of right now, for those of you who are mad that the New Orleans Saints won't stop winning and improving their draft stake in the wrong direction, you're now up to 8th. So, there you go. If you win next week, it's more than likely the New Orleans Saints will be picking between 11 and 14. But I would much rather have a team that's winning football games. I would. Call me crazy. I would much rather have this team winning football games right now, even if that means they ruin their draft status. Congrats. This is the happiest I've been about a team being 6-10 in a very long time, right? Dupree says picking 8th is great when you feel like you have a quarterback. That's a good point to make, right? There's definitely, again, multiple pieces I'd love to add to this team. I'd love to have a young elite linebacker. I'd love to have a young elite corner. I'd love to have a better offensive line. No shortage. And when we get into the draft part of the year, which we're only a couple weeks away from as Saints fans, we'll definitely dive into that. But today, you got a big win. And then Atlanta Falcons. That's who you got. Wrapping up the year, you go to Atlanta. And look, I know I'm putting some pressure on the young man's shoulders, but if Tyler Shough can play like he did the past few games, really since the Carolina game that he started, which was before the bye week. Again, the team is now 5-2 with Tyler Shough at quarterback. 5-2. After going 1-7, they're now 5-2 under. 1-8. I apologize. I miscounted. 1-8. Then you switch Tyler Shough 5-2. Again, quarterbacks, they are not solely responsible for wins. I do not believe wins are a quarterback stat, but clearly some changes matter. If he can go to Atlanta and beat Atlanta, and I know draft status. But if you can put Atlanta down in the cellar, and if he can come in and treat the rivalry game as it's meant to be treated, and you can win this game right here, no question. Tyler Shough, start next year, 100%. Right, so I'm glad about the win. I'll take the win. Falcons hate week starts tomorrow because we're going to celebrate the win today. But what a fun time. What a fun time right now. And the fact that you have multiple, it's also how the wins are coming, y'all. 2 road wins in the elements. Like, I know, and I say it all the time on the show, we're going to lose context. Rainy, we're going to lose context, man. Mithril, we're going to lose context. 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about, oh, they went to Tampa and Tennessee in the elements, high winds in Tennessee, very windy day in Tennessee, pouring down rain in Tampa, and we come with gritty winds. Are we really going to be talking about that? Maybe not. But at the same time, we can talk about it now. It's impressive. You're getting these tough wins on the road. It's impressive. Do the same thing against Atlanta. Finish out with 5 wins in a row. Let people remember when they make those preseason rankings going into 2026. Oh, yeah, the Saints were hot to end the year. Wonder what they can look like starting off. And I also want to point out that you've lost so many games that your schedule next year means you're going to be playing mostly people that are, assuming you beat Atlanta. If New Orleans beats Atlanta, they'll finish 3rd in the division. If y'all don't remember how the scheduling works, there's a order to how you get the schedule done every single year. And part of that is you play 2 divisions. In particular, you're going to play 1 AFC division, 1 NFC division. You're going to play your own division, and then you're also going to play the teams that finished similar to you the previous year. So if you played and finished 3rd, then you're also going to play for the remainder of those games that aren't part of the divisional matchups. You're going to play other teams who were 3rd. So you have the chance to be an ascending team going into next year. All depends on, 1, how do you draft? How do you free agency this offseason? But man, this is a time to be excited and certainly a time to believe more in Coach Moore, right? Let's grab some comments from all the Hootouts down in the chats. We appreciate you being here. 1, hope you're enjoying the win. Thomas says, oh yeah, we got to beat Atlanta. I don't care what pick we get. And that's where I'm at. Again, just to keep it knowledgeable and a buck for everybody, here is on the screen if you're watching live, but here's where the New Orleans Saints stand right now. If you win, you can see moving to 7-10 will likely put you past the 10th pick. And I use Atlanta as a comparison, even though they gave their pick to the Rams. Atlanta being 6-9, Atlanta has not played at the time of us making this podcast. They play the Rams tonight. Very unlikely they beat the Rams, but it is the NFL. Anything can happen. But right now, they've got the 11th pick. Right, so if you jumped Atlanta by beating them next week, let's just say you get 7 wins, you're probably, again, going to be somewhere between picks 11 and 14. Somewhere in that, still in the first half of the draft, but you're outside the top 10. We'll see what that ends up looking like. And again, you see Kansas City losing 5 in a row, New Orleans winning 4 in a row now, really impacts that and is going to adjust the draft status. So again, if you beat Atlanta, you're sacrificing what's probably going to be between 3 and 5 draft pick slots. 100% okay with it because I believe winning is more important. Developing a winning culture is more important. And we'll see how that ends up looking like. Dupree says, how do you feel about this rookie class overall since the season's almost over? I believe every NFL draft class has talent, and a lot of it depends on where you go and how you get used. Right. And with New Orleans being just a bad team this year, look, I know we've won 4 in a row, but let's still be objective. This team is a bad team this year. That means that you have an opportunity for players to come in who are drafted and perform, right? Because you were a bad team. I mean, if you had a great left tackle, Kelvin Banks doesn't see the field. I think Kelvin Banks has looked good. I think Tyler Shough shows you that he was a better fit for this team. And I know some people don't like his age, but do you really care about his age when you're winning football games? No, as long as you're winning, who cares, right? Freaking Aaron Rodgers is still winning with the Steelers. So well, technically they lost to the Browns today, but the point I'm making is you don't care. All you care is your team winning, and your team won. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Your team won a football game. That's all I care about. So Shough, good in that pick. Vernon Broughton, we still got to see him more time, so obviously can't really speak to that. Jonas Sanker, I think is solid. Again, I don't think Sanker has played very consistent. He's had a lot of really high mountaintops and a couple of valleys. He's a little bit late in getting over in one of the plays today, but still, I think Sanker's been good. Stutzman, I'm very curious to see what his second-year leap looks like, if he can take one. I do think that he's going to, absolutely take one of the starting spots. He's been in a heavy rotation with the rotation favoring him lately. And what I mean by that is he's been getting more snaps. Now, I want to point out what I said earlier, though. Be very clear. This is all happening because this team is very bad, right? This team needs to get better. That doesn't mean these players aren't getting better, right? Again, Danny Stutzman against the Jets had 40% of the snaps. So clearly he's earning more of that. But I also don't want to look at this team and go, hey, well, Danny Stutzman is the linebacker for the next 10 years. Got to see where they grow. But you like the fact that they've got an opportunity to start. And more importantly, they're taking advantage of those starts. Quincy Riley, I'm very interested in. So when you can have over half of your draft picks not only contribute, but are contributing in a positive way, that's exciting. And that's exactly where you're at with New Orleans. Like half of your draft picks are contributing in a very positive way. Kelvin Banks has definitely had bad moments, but overall, I'm very excited about him at left tackle. Right, Quincy Riley, again, has had bad moments. I still am excited about him in the secondary. You know, Tyler Shough, he might be almost my age, but if you're helping the team win 5 games of your last 7, I don't care if you're 26, 36, or 16. Whatever. Win football games. Win football games. So, got to keep moving. The key is, though, this team needs everything, though, right? Don't let this win streak fool anybody into thinking that this is a Super Bowl caliber team. This is a team that has found their identity. They're gelling together, and they're showing that with grit, determination, and believing in a winning culture, you can win football games. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go ahead and take this team and say, oh, we're going to go march into Philly and win an NFC championship game or win a Super Bowl. We're not there yet. But, man, you can definitely see here's some good pieces. The culture you're building is important. You're gelling as a team. Very excited for next year. But you also got to finish strong. You got to go out and beat Atlanta, right? You can't do all this talking. You can't be like, oh, man, we beat Carolina, we beat Tampa, division leaders. We went, beat the Jets, game you should win, dominated that game. Then you went to Tennessee and won, and then you flop against Atlanta. Like, give us a reason to really believe, and capping the season off will be an important reason or important way to do that. Max says, it's so great to see the fire this team has each game, and that is one of the key differences. Name your favorite player, doesn't matter. Name whatever player you believe should have more starts, more stats, whatever, doesn't matter. What matters is you can tell when a team believes in themselves and are really pushing for each other. And I'm not saying that you did not have some belief, but you can clearly see that the identity of this team and the paradigm of this team has elevated a lot this year. As you've gotten deeper in and as changes have been made, this team has certainly gotten to where they are playing better. And there's no denying that. And it's crazy to see on social media a lot of people still speaking down on this team 4 in a row. I will absolutely say this team still got to get better, right? Again, a lot of the pieces I talk about, like Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think he's a really good number 2. Doesn't mean he's elite number 1, but still important to have a really good number 2. So Jeff says, I would want more film analysis on Kool-Aid. Feels like guys were open, but Cameron Ward couldn't get it to them. Look, there's always some truth to that. I mean, there's certainly some truth to that. At the same time, when you do see him making plays, you can't discount them, right? And I think more importantly is you've seen him get better as the season has progressed, right? So you look at, for example, Lante Taylor. Lante Taylor, we know what he is. Lante Taylor gives up 70% of his passes this year as completions. 70%. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. I mean, that's not great. Now, that doesn't mean that Lante Taylor can't make plays, but Lante Taylor is clearly better in the box. There's things that he's good and bad at. Kool-Aid McKinstry this year, and I pulled him out as a comparison. Kool-Aid McKinstry is allowing, after today, right at 60%. It might be a little bit lower. We'll pull up the numbers when all those advanced stats come out tomorrow. But 60% or less, so significantly better. And more importantly than that, if you look at Kool-Aid and you film study his first half of the season versus second half of the season, he's playing a lot better now. Right? So are there plays that quarterbacks are missing? Sure, 100%. But again, just because he gives up plays doesn't mean he's garbage either. And I would say this, there's room in the NFL in every professional sport for gray area. And too often, and of course I'm not accusing the person who asked this question of this, but too often a lot of people either go, man, he's hot. Oh, he's trash. He's garbage. Doo-doo. Get rid of him. Why do we have him? Dog water. Or he's elite. He's an up-and-comer. He's a stud. Dude's going to be great. When in reality, those two instances are like 5% on each side. And then the other 90% is spectrum, right? And I think on the spectrum of play, Kool-Aid is on a positive end of the spectrum. I think he makes more positive than negative. Is he a superstar? I'm definitely not saying Kool-Aid is going to be an all-pro next year. But I am saying he's contributing positively to this team, not negatively. And I think that's important, right? I think it's important to see that context around each player and how they're performing. You know, Kool-Aid getting 2 pass deflections a day, that matters, right? And some of those are on key plays, especially at the end of the game. You saw Tennessee Titans trying to run down the field, trying to make a play happen, trying to go deep. He broke a couple of them up, right? That matters, and that's worth calling out. Again, not saying everybody's elite. We're playing right here in the 90% of that spectrum. We'll leave the 5%ers to be 5%er, right? For example, Chase Young shows those highlight plays that he's in that 5%, right? He has played as a top 5% player this year. His problem, he's not been healthy all year, right? So there's another caveat to Chase Young. But Kool-Aid is the same way. Kool-Aid's producing more positive than he is negative. And to give you further comparison, again, that's what your starting corners are doing this season. So Kool-Aid is giving a 60% completion percentage up. He's given up 3 total touchdowns, right? Now, I'm not saying those are great numbers, but they're not terrible. Let's do a fair comparison to last year, right? Last year, Marshon Lattimore, who we know is a better corner, gave up 54.5% completion percentage. That's not, I mean, again, like Ugo Amadi last year, 65%. Who gave up the most touchdowns last year? Yeah, last year's rough, man. Do we have to think about last year? Can we focus on this year? Last year, Alontae Taylor gave up 7 tutties. 7. Again, I'm not trying to hate on Alontae Taylor. He happened to give up 7 touchdowns in the passing game last year. So, you know, when you're looking at these things, Kool-Aid, I think I'm quoting him with 3. Again, depends on which analytic you're referring to. I know SIS, I think, gives him 7, and I think PFF gave him like 5. So all this is subjective unless you actually take the time to go one by one. But is Kool-Aid playing worse than Alontae Taylor did last year when he had to play outside? No. So find the good. I think that's always important. Work from that. But I do think he is, the best way I can describe it to Saints fans is Kool-Aid McKinstry, what I see in him is Paulson Adebo with Marshon Lattimore. Paulson Adebo is a very good number 2, not a great number 1. What's the difference? Simple. The type of play. One being a boundary versus field corner, and especially if you play on a team that asks you to travel with the number 1 receiver. Being the number 1 corner is a big difference, right? There's a difference in responsibilities and a difference in how much help you get. I think Kool-Aid's a really good number 2, and I think you can build with that, right? So, and the reason I get into like this kind of long-winded explanation is because too often you'll get a lot of people out there, especially on social media, who are just like, look, we just get rid of him. And one thing I try to say a lot of times, you never get rid of a guy unless you have his replacement, right? You do not get rid of somebody unless you have a replacement, right? Cesar Ruiz is a good example. You saw today the interior offensive line get absolutely destroyed. Now, I'm not saying Cesar Ruiz is good, but believe it or not, you can step down from Cesar Ruiz. You will need to find a replacement. So with Kool-Aid having more positive, and it's good when you're on a bad team, like a 6-10 team, to find those guys positive. So if we know that, okay, Kool-Aid is solid on the outside right now, okay, well, let's keep him there, but let's still try to go find that elite guy who could be our reliable number 1. You know, Paulson Adebo is kind of the same way for me, right? I actually wish that you had kept Adebo, but when you got Kool-Aid, you don't need 2 number 2s. And I think that's part of the reason you see them moving on. But you see Adebo this year having pretty much the same kind of year that you normally have. He's a solid guy, but not elite. I think you've got a solid guy in Kool-Aid. We'll see where we go from there. But more comments. Don't want to spend too much time. I already spent way too much time on that segment. Randy says, winning benefits you in the long run, whether it's free agency or the outlook of the team. Winning fixes everything. That final there is my big one. Winning fixes everything. See how different the people feel? Here, let me put a great context, because we actually spent much of today hyping up Tyler Shough, and I think appropriately so, right? I think Tyler Shough has been a breath of fresh air quarterback that we've not had in terms of just winnability. Yeah, we're going to make up words for him. But what I mean by that is just how they're performing consistently. And one, just that wherewithal to know that you can rely on him to make a big play. It's just those intangibles that you always talk about, right? So what you have from him, though, all that said, let's talk about just straight numbers. And this is the difference that winning makes. Tyler Shough, yes, had a great game today. But if you're comparing numbers to numbers, Tyler Shough has 2,000 yards passing, right at 2,100 actually, 9 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. Spencer Rattler had 1,600-ish passing yards, so 500 less, which is a significant amount, but 8 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, only 1 less passing touchdown. So what I'm saying is, like, if you took the names away and you just blindly showed somebody these 2 quarterback stats, nobody would be banging the drum, oh, this guy's great, or that guy's amazing. They'd be like, okay, one's close, but one's marginally better. But then you actually go look at the games and you go, okay, no, the team is playing significantly better with Tyler Shough at quarterback, even though the stats aren't really that wide of a difference. It's how they're playing. And a lot of that comes down to those key plays of who can make a play when you need to make a play. And Tyler Shough has done that. And hopefully he keeps doing that because, you want to win football games. But to me, that's the key. You have a guy who's coming up with a must-win type of a play when you need it. And that's something that everybody can kind of buy into and really wants to be a part of. And people get excited about that. Now, Marcus asked a great question. Does this team respond to Tyler Shough if he were the opening day quarterback one, or does the learning experience contribute to his performance? I think both things are true, right? It's impossible for us to really know what things have been like if Tyler Shough started week one. Hey, we could be really lame and cheesy and be like, hey, if they had started Tyler Shough week one, we would have been in the Super Bowl. We would have made the playoffs. We would have won 10, 15 games. Yeah, who knows? Absolutely nobody knows that. I mean, I said this at the beginning of the year. Tyler Shough had things he had to improve on. One thing that Tyler Shough has improved on, just as the learning process has happened, is his pocket awareness, his pocket poise, and his ability to operate the scramble drill, right? And that's something I said at the beginning of this year. If y'all remember at the early podcast, I said, what is Spencer Rattler better at Tyler Shough at right now? Spencer Rattler is better in the scramble drill. They're going back, we're talking about the beginning of the year, back in the preseason, back in camp. He's better in the scramble drill. He has better pocket poise. And he just operates at the time mechanically better in those situations. But what I also said was Tyler Shough clearly throws a better football. Much better placed football, much more accurate, but more importantly, better placed. But he had to work on those other things. So there's no guarantee that had you started him week one, he would look as good. If anything, as I often talk about being my fear, you can start a quarterback too early, and those negatives actually become what he is and who he is. And that's the danger for anybody. I mean, the same can be said for Spencer Rattler, getting thrown into a tough situation early in the game or early in the year with a lot of rough things happening. Hey, that could have impeded him as well. So it's not really worth doing this conjecture of like, hey, what would have been different? I think it's more important to focus on what you have now. And what you have now is a guy who in 9 games, about half a season, 2,000 yards, 9 touchdown passes, still can improve in that area. I think better talent around him would help. He desperately needs an elite Michael Thomas. What quarterback doesn't? He desperately needs a good offensive line and a healthy running back room. We'll see what it looks like next year. Definitely excited for it, though. Still a great question. But I think all you can really do at the end of the day is focus on what you're seeing right now. Right. Milk says, why are you so scared to call a spade a spade? Look, if Shough falls off in 2 years, nobody's going to hold it against you. The reality is that Shough is playing on a top 10 quarterback right now. He's not playing like a top 10 quarterback. Let's go ahead and throw that aside. No, he's not. Again, now we're getting into that same thing I just said, where people are trying to throw people into one of two areas, top 5% or bottom 5%, and ignoring the 90. Tyler Shough is not a top 10 quarterback right now. And that's okay. Like, we don't have to prop him up to be something he's not. At the same time, he's good. Okay? So it's not that I'm not calling a spade. It's that too many people have this problem where we have to throw him either into the elite area or the trash pile. Tyler Shough is not playing as a top 10 quarterback. You would not take Tyler Shough over 10 other quarterbacks in the NFL if you were building a team right now. Now, that doesn't mean that a year, 2 years from now, that could change. The player evaluation is an evolving form, right? You can't just guarantee what guy was this year is next year, good or bad. You can only say, what do we see right now? What can we build with the traits that we find in this player? There are a lot of great traits in Shough. That's why I was excited about Shough in the beginning of the year. I said that if I had to choose, I said, go check it on X. I said I would choose him as the starter, but I get why you start Spencer Rattler. That's the exact comment verbatim I made on my X account. Heck, I can pull it up here during the stream. So it's not like I'm trying to dismiss Tyler Shough and not really dive into him. It's the understanding of context and, more importantly, the understanding of the spectrum of play that is the NFL and players. I'm not going to just go throw him in the top 10 because he's helped the team win 4 in a row and he's looked really good in his starts. He's still not top 10. Can he get there? Absolutely. I want him to. If he can take all of his good traits, turn them into elite, and get better at the things that he's not great at, then absolutely, you're looking at him being one of those guys. The key is keeping it objective. And objectively, is he top 10? No. But is he doing amazing things? Yes. Should you be excited as a Saints fan? Absolutely. That doesn't mean we go crazy with how anybody else can do what they want to do. Again, you got to remember that I was trained for scouting, so that has really turned my viewpoint into being very traits focused. And I would even say to a point where maybe I am too traits focused at times. Maybe I should just enjoy the wins and flow with it. Sure, make that argument. But for me, I'm very traits focused. Let's see how he develops, go from there. And I'm very focused on trying to be as objective as possible. And if that means I'm not calling a spade, fine, whatever. But I think that he's playing really well, and I absolutely want to build around him. So let's go from there and see what happens. And if you would take, only 5 quarterbacks ahead of Tyler Shough, that's completely fine. I would. There's a lot of guys I would rather have right now. In like fantasy world, where I'm building a dream team for 1 year and I'm taking all the quarterbacks available right now and say, hey, I'm making a 2026 Super Bowl team. Yeah, there's 10 guys I would take ahead of Tyler Shough right now. But if we're talking about, do I want to build this team around Tyler Shough? Yes, which was the theme of today's, if you didn't catch it earlier. I want to build this team around Tyler Shough next year. It's no longer I'm cool with drafting Mendoza. No, at this point, you don't draft a Mendoza if you had the opportunity. You stick with Shough and you see what's going to happen because he's shown enough that you build around that and you develop that. That was kind of the whole theme of today's show, but at the same time, I understand not everybody comes in at the same time, and we've been talking about this game for 45 minutes. We started off with the game, then we've evolved into expounding on that, so hey, appreciate y'all who listen. We do appreciate it. Also, Basile says, is it me or is Estime starting to look like a proper number 2? Maybe, maybe not. Again, one thing y'all are going to get annoyed with how I view things sometimes. I get it, though. One thing I've always harped on, though, you can't really know what a player is for your team. Because, again, if you're going to build a scouting report, minimum 200 snaps. He's not there yet, right? I want to throw in the caveat of context. I know y'all getting tired of hearing that. But Estime just had a great game against one of the worst teams in the NFL. One great game. He also contributed in a nice way in another game. That's 2 games. He's only got 130 rushing yards on the entire season. That isn't me saying that Estime is not something that you go, hey, bring that back. Definitely see what it looks like next year. But is it in any way me going guaranteed number 2 spot? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. And I hope that doesn't sound awful, but like a true elite number 2 running back that you're like, hey, this is my consistent change of pace back. Those guys are 400 or 500 yards rushing, 200 yards, 100 yards receiving, multiple tutties, and you've got tape on it. Whether that be collegiate or NFL. Right now, we're working on what we've seen from him. Let's not get that crazy, right? Because coming in today, he had some solid runs. He's been getting slightly more snaps as it's progressed. One thing I did like seeing the past 2 weeks is you actually saw him in the receiving game, right? Whereas his first time against Tampa, you only saw him in the run game. You're starting to see little bits of it, but running 3 carries against Tampa and then running, 3 carries against Carolina, no. We definitely want more of Estime. Now, I'll add this. I 100% want to see a lot of Estime against Atlanta. That, 100%. Now, we'll see where it goes from there. And I love Basile follows up with, is it me or is Estime looking like a proper Hall of Famer? You know what? You're right. I'm being too conservative. Put him in Canton right now. I want to see that bust right up next to Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson, all the great running backs. Right there. You're right. I'm being too conservative. Craven says a lot of people thought the Saints wasted that second round pick on Shough. Now it's looking like a steal. Truth is, it doesn't matter where they get picked as long as you hit on that pick. Absolutely. 100% agree. Don says, I like Estime and Neal, but I think we need a speedy guy back there too. Look, I said earlier, I love that Estime and Neal are both 22 years old, right? So low tread on those tires. You believe that, you've seen some good things with them. Keep them around. But I also want to say, don't overhype one game. With Tyler Shough, it's a lot easier to overhype him throwing 81.5%, 333 yards, tutties, no interceptions, because he's now started this whole second half of the season, right? So this is his 9th start. We've got Tyler Shough numbers. We see his film. Estime just needs to get that film. That's all I'm saying. Should Estime show that film? I'm 100%. Any young guy that shows out, keep him around. Definitely don't get rid of him. 8th start, by the way. I'm sorry. Not his 9th start. This was Tyler Shough's 8th start of the season. So, yeah. Good stuff. Appreciate y'all. Who dat? Man, y'all are excited about having good football, aren't you? Y'all are excited about having good football. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for all of us that we got good football. This is fun. This is fun. Now, Raya says 8 start, he's 5-3. The only thing I'll correct you on, he's not 5-3. I will continue to lead the crusade that wins are not a quarterback stat. Got to ignore that. Why? Because according to those same people, Drew Brees is overrated. If Drew Brees was that great, he wouldn't have several 7-9 seasons. This argument is being made today. I don't know how much y'all look outside the New Orleans circle. Drew Brees' name gets brought up, and people Nah, he wasn't that great. And a lot of it is the win-loss record. That's one of the first things people run to. Give you an example. Now, this is just a recent example. I'm not saying it's a good one. But literally just this week, you had Atlanta Falcons fans talking about how Matt Ryan is a superior quarterback to Drew Brees. And they were saying that had Matt Ryan been on the New Orleans Saints roster, the Saints would have won 3 or 4 Super Bowls. Right? So that's why I'm so loud against the win-loss thing on quarterbacks. Does quarterback contribute more to wins and losses than maybe anything? Yes. Agreed. Hate win-loss records on quarterbacks because that takes away the fact that there are 21 other starters on offense and defense, not to mention your special teams guys, and you're just like taking all the load off them. Yeah. Who cares if the Saints had like the 32nd rank defense multiple times with Drew Brees? That doesn't matter. Who cares the fact that Drew Brees still today holds the NFL record for most leads recovered blown, as in he has the record of comebacks that were then blown by the defense. Enjoy that fun stat if you did not know it existed. So that's why I'm so anti win-loss on quarterbacks, because it doesn't properly display the truth. And that can be used in both directions. There are quarterbacks who have high win numbers who aren't great quarterbacks, who aren't top 10 quarterbacks, but they're part of really good teams. Right? Let me give you an example. I'm going to give you my hot take of the day, and then I'm going to skedaddle, and we'll do another show later. But you want an example of what I mean by that? Some of y'all out there are going to get salty, but thankfully probably not who that's. Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not a great quarterback. He's solid. He's good. I'm not saying he's bad. He is not great. But he consistently has his name in the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now because he's got 56 wins and 25 losses. But if you did a blind stat run and said, hey, look at this quarterback stats over the past 6 years and then look at these, would people be picking Jalen Hurts as a top quarterback? No, they wouldn't. But the fact that he's got 50-something wins, everybody anoints him great quarterback. That's why I'm so, and again, I'm not saying Hurts is a bad quarterback. We're back in the spectrum. He's just not in that 5% I'm talking about. He's not one of the top guys. That's where I'm at, right? And that's why, like, even though I'm definitely giving flowers to Shough, love it, but I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, his win-loss record is why he's better than Spencer Rattler. No, why he's better than Spencer Rattler is he has better ball placement. He makes his receivers around him better because he throws a better football. The fact that he has elevated his play in pocket awareness and poise, that's why. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's won more games. Get to the traits, get to the details of why he's better. As my good friend, well, we don't talk anymore, but when he was on the team, we talked a lot. Mark Ingram used to say, it's the details. Look at the details. Who dat? God bless. Shout out to your starting quarterback, by the way, who has 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. New Orleans has not had that in several years. Shout out to you, New Orleans Saints, who've won 4 in a row. Shout out to you, New Orleans Saints, who've won 5 of the past 7. And hopefully, Falcons Hate Week starting tomorrow, we got another one. Who dat? God bless. I love y'all. We'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, we get another win. Hopefully, we'll be having a whole bunch of wins with Tyler Shough and company next year. But we won't have a lot of time to talk about it. And hopefully, you'll join me. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you listen on iTunes, Google, iHeart Radio, Spotify, etc., thank you so much. Who dat? God bless. We'll see you in the next one. Deuces, that's me. That was a good win. I'm excited. Let's go win. Michael, by the way, in the YouTube chat, I see you trying to troll me right now, Michael. I'm not going to let you do it, but I see you trying to do it. Who dat?
An even better outro than the intro.
Dang it, that's the wrong
for
exit.
the Empire.
There's the right exit.